Welcome to game number... Oh, I gotta restart that. The music wasn't on. 2 European players square off now in the round of 8. A best of 5, just like all the others, is in front of us. And spawning here to the bottom right, we have the blue Zerg player. It's Vanya. His opponent in the top left, the red Terran Clem. Now, Clem and Vanya are both really good players, but if we're being honest, not just based off of favoritism, but straight up results, Clem is a god right now. Clem is cleaning up tournaments he plays in. He's on fire. People want to make jokes about patch Terran. I couldn't agree less. I think what we're seeing out of Clem is really amazing decision making. He was already one of the fastest up and coming players, not in terms of his momentum for quality of tournament results, but instead just his handling of units in the game. A lot of the Korean players very early on, before Clem got quote unquote good, remarked how fast of a player he was. And in fact, Clem only really had a small few amount of weak points I could ever point out. He used to be really bad at overstimming, for example, and terrible at splitting. He's since over the last year fixed both of those things, and they're not even an issue. He is without a doubt one of my favorite Terran players currently in Europe, and I'm excited to see him play here. And that being said, this turns Vanya into a vast underdog. But Vanya is one of these really scrappy players you don't expect to win against players, and then he does. It's something about that region, I think, because Vanya's like Russian or whatever. They just have these players who come out of nowhere and kick ass, and you're like, oh, I didn't expect that at all. So I think for me, I expect Clem to win this series, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Vanya pulled something out of his ass here. I see a lot of comments in the Twitch chat I want to address, but if I do, it'll take up the entire duration of this game. So we'll put this on hold and we'll resume the conversation after. I just want to make a couple things clear though before we do continue. Thank you for the bits, 47s. You don't have to support what I support. You don't even have to be here. So if you guys want to argue about stuff, please just take it elsewhere. That's all. I'm just asking nice. I'm not threatening with a ban, right? Just I want to help these people, and if you don't, you don't have to. It's really simple. You don't have to donate. You don't have to do anything. If you want to just watch StarCraft, then come back next week, right? But a lot of these issues have similarly affected me throughout my life, so I'm fully supportive of helping people who need help. And that doesn't even come down to anything political or race-based. It's just as simple as there are people out there who can't afford to deal with COVID-19. Period. People, human beings, not black, not white, everybody. But of course, especially right now, black people. And that's all I want to see on it. So focusing up on the rest of this, Clem, of course, is withdrawn with his Reaper and come back home. He gets a little bit of pokey poke going on, but obviously was denied entrance to the main. So his scouting this game, kind of limited, but I don't really think he's in danger because of this. Zerg openings are pretty much the same versus Terran. The only deviations are really big all-ins, but Clem has already scouted enough to realize it wasn't going to be like a big roach all-in one base or anything. So he's not scared, even though he's been denied a lot of vision. Is he going to go with Banshees? I like Banshees. Banshees have been making a comeback recently. I did know the donations are really loud today. Really? Oh, I don't have a way to adjust that right now, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I can look into it after this game. Reaper comes over here. And I guess we haven't talked a lot about the patch changes between Terran and Zerg, but as this match and the last match today are Terran versus Zerg, I guess I can put some emphasis on it. But right now, the only thing that's really going to be affected is the fact that creep tumors are now considered light instead of armored, which means Hellions only take 5 shots, I think it is, to kill them now. But of course, when they're first plopped down, they just get killed pretty much immediately. Yeah, Overlord's pushed off and denied some more scouting from the main, but he already saw this tech lab spinning, and without seeing what it was spinning on, it's, you know, it's gonna be a starport. But this was a bit of a fake out of Clem, because it's not Banshees, it's the Liberator. And with the spinning tech lab being misunderstood, Vanya will still probably put down spore crawlers, or I hope he does. Otherwise, this Liberator is gonna be a real pain to deal with. The Zerglings are a little scary too. When you put a third CC in the wall like this, it's a lot of surface area, but he catches these very quickly. That Liberator heads down south. That thing's taking off real fast. No spore crawlers. This is going to be so frustrating to deal with. It's also going to get a pretty good scout when it goes over to the main and sees the layer timing finished up. Hellion's also looking to poke in. He's without a doubt, Vanya's going to have to show his roach count. He's going to have to reveal his hand here to defend these Hellions and push them off. I don't think this Liberator is meant to win crazy battles here, but oh, almost gets that last shot on the Queen. Hellions wrap around the south side. No drones to pick off, but he sees a large amount of roaches, and bunkers are coming down already for Clem. Oh my god, he's gonna, oh, how many kills? What do you guys think? 12? I'm gonna say 12. 12 kills before this is all said and done? Oh my god, light him up! 12 kills, 14 kills, 16, 18. He set up the Liberator to this base too. Vanya getting absolutely demolished. 20 workers dead, and the Liberator still stands. Now, normally in this situation, the counterattack is forced out because there's really no other options. But with Clem having put down several bunkers, oh, they're empty. Oh, hold on, hold the phone, guys. Siege tanks are set up. I think the siege tanks alone should be good enough. And there we go. Now some units are going inside the bunkers. I was a little scared there for a second, to be honest. All right, the Ravager's going down. The worker count being what it is. This is it for Vanya. Like, he's most likely going to lose this game, but if there's any miracle chance to cause crazy damage, now is it. Maybe the SCVs accidentally get overpulled and stack up and need to corrosive pile. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's also not impossible. Chaos theory, right? But let's just be perfectly clear. This is looking like such a done deal. There's not a wall, but it doesn't need to be. The Liberator sets up too. GG. Clem cleans up game number 1. Oof. 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 It's game number 2 as we continue on with this best of 5, the round of 8. And just before getting into this game, we received another $100 donation from, and I'm going to say his name wrong, I'm sure, Deuten Zankberg. It's like German Zoidberg, I guess. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that generous donation to the charity. But it's game number 2, and spawning to the lower left-hand side of the map, he's down 1 game at the moment. It is the Blue Zerg Vanya. And to the top right, we have the red Terran. It's Team Liquid's Clem. Now, Clem just manhandled Vanya in game 1. But I think what's unfortunate, regardless of who the player is or what the skill level is, you can't let Hellions kill your drones. Whether you're going for an all-in, whether you're playing macro, whatever your plans are, if you lose 12 drones in the early game, you have been put into a position you don't want to be put in. And playing from behind like that for Vanya, who was setting up for a pretty aggressive attack, just really set him back further. But I also know Vanya's a good player. This isn't some random guy we had get into the tournament. He qualified, he's good, he's played in a lot of stuff we've hosted. And while maybe Clem's a bit of a mismatch here, I still have faith in Vanya to try and take at least 1 game in the series. Although, just like to be real, it's also would expect Clem to take a 3-0 just while we played both sides of this, right? Regardless, though, this tournament, we've talked a lot about the charity. Let's go back to the tournament for a second. The tournament has a $1,000 prize pool. This was, of course, made possible thanks to the viewers, not through their donations, but for supporting a previous sponsored stream we did. And we took all the money from the sponsored stream and we gave it back through gifted subs and skins in this tournament. So when we worked with Raid Shadow Legends, on the record, personally, I think I made about $200 something after we had spent all the money on everything else, including this tournament. So when I take sponsorships like that, it's so we can do cool stuff. And this, of course, has turned into $5,000 for the charity, but for the players, they're playing for $1,000. And everybody who's made it to this round of 8 is getting at least $50 if they get knocked out, but they can play for up to like $400 for first place. So it's nice. This is a real win-win for me, where we can do a great goal on the side, but also still provide a pretty hefty prize pool for the players who have been putting on some good games and some fun times for us. Side note, I got to make this clear because unfortunately timing I know won't work out for everybody. But while this is the round of 8 today, we will be playing the playoffs tomorrow. That's going to start at 9 a.m. Pacific. and I'm going to be having Tempo join me for those finals. I wanted to have Tempo join me for more of the tournament, but he's currently on vacation with his girlfriend, and I didn't want to make him spend too much time away from her. So he's actually brought his laptop and his casting gear to, he's like in the Virgin Islands or something. I don't know. It's on his Twitter. But Tempo will be joining me tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to that because Tempo is an old school friend of the channel. I love him to death. And I think that if there's one person I would love to have cast the finals with me here, it'd be him. So I'm looking forward to that a lot tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Actually, a little side note. Tempo was streaming, I don't know if it's today or yesterday because my days bleed together right now, but they did like an ancestry.com thing. And the girl he's with, she's got like 19 or 20. Like I'm like 1/20th like European. Tempo gets his, and it's just like 4 things, and they're all like straight up like Uganda and Africa and stuff. Oh, I love Tempo so much, man. But yeah, if you guys don't know, he also plays Stream Raiders and stuff too, so keep an eye on that. Well, more later. Anyways, look, now that the downtime has passed, Clem's getting up here trying to pick up his creep tumor. He does manage to snipe it off, and to be clear, on the last patch, that creep tumor right there would not have died. That's the difference of the bonus damage versus light coming into effect for things. We also have Stim coming out, so no weird irregularities. Clem's not changing it up to play a mech game or something like that. And Vanya's Roach Warren, of course, was revealed, but I don't know that Clem's going to be scared by this. This 3 base setup can still be a Roach all-in, but this is not the kind that kills you without a bunker. And he's going to set up a wall down here too. He's got Hellions patrolling around looking for units straight on the map. This Viking got a kill, so the Overlord's gone, and Vanya now has no vision on the other side of the field. Actually, it's a little scary too because, well, maybe Vanya gets aggressive. Clem could also be setting up for a 2-base all-in as far as Vanya's concerned. There's a lot of very powerful Terran pushes, and it's actually Clem's teammate I would reference for this one. Euthermal has some of the grossest 2-base Terran plays against Protoss, against Zerg. I love watching him play. I wish Euthermal played him more stuff, goddammit. He's really fun to watch when he's on fire. But anyways, the point is there are some very scary builds that could punish Vanya. But Vanya is building a lot of units to fight with, not a lot of workers. And as they march across the field, Clem scouts this. This wall is irregular to say the least. That's a hole in the wall. Oh, that's a hole in the wall. He's got to pull some SCVs to deal with this because the Marine count might not be enough. He knows this too as he rushes home with the Hellions. A tank starts coming out as well. Bunkers will buy some time. And 47 has just donated $25 to our charity fundraiser. Thank you, man. He says, no, seriously, fuck the trolls. Agree. Big agree. All right. Well, there's a tank, 2 tanks to make this a lot more comfortable. High ground vision is not something that Vanya's going to have. So a tank over here is way more powerful than a tank back here. And that Viking's on patrol to make sure there are no overlords to come in and provide that vision. But Clem just loses like 4 or 5 supply depots. Big supply block coming into this. He can't save that one bunker. He might be able to save the other one. Tank firing for some big damage as it repositions. 2 siege tanks make sure that Clem's not going to die to this attack, but he took some nasty damage. That many supply, oh sorry, it was 3. I thought it was 5 for some reason. But 3 supply depots going down is pretty rough. Did he drop supply to make up for this? Or did he just, oh, he just built depots in the back because Clem's actually a god. Not to mention he had his 3rd CC finish up too, which I suppose helped bridge this supply problem for him. But Vanya, satisfied with his attack, withdrew. And it's worth noting that through all of this, he didn't keep pumping up a big amount of army units, right? Like he got to a critical mass, attacked, and then it died. Because during this, instead of going up, he started building drones. And that's why we see him now with 66 workers on the field. Income has been favoring Clem. Now we'll start favoring Vanya. Although with mules, it's going to be very erratic. So, yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Someone's asked, oh no, sorry, Dinwit, we didn't make it today. The drawing for the invites did not favor us. Kara did not get in, but Shrelia did in our little friend group. Marines dive forward. Big stem. Takes out the Ravagers right away, but then picks up and pieces out. Clem, this was such like a precision move. Diving in like that and withdrawing immediately. He could have stayed and fight, but probably would have lost. Trade out for a couple more Ravagers, but I like this a lot more. Because for Terran, it is about playing cost efficient versus Zerg. I don't think there's many games I can recall where a Terran player overwhelms a Zerg player through sheer macro. It's one of those things where their cost efficiency early on pays off through macro later. And Clem is one hell of a macro player. There's no question about it. So we're going to see him keep producing a lot of units on the back end. His armory's finishing up so he can get his 2-2 going ASAP. He's hitting at a timing, though, just before Vanya's 1-1 is finished. This is a really strong attack timing for Clem. He doesn't have to commit to this, but if the engagement goes down in the next 10 seconds, he does have a small lead. Do we hate her? No, yeah, we enviously hate Shirelia right now, but we also like her, so we support her and wish her well. All right, hatchery down here getting focused down. Vanya kind of has to commit because as he pulls back home, he wasn't gonna save the hatchery. Killing these Marines doesn't unkill the hatchery, but he does find Clem's wall quite delicious. Chews through it very quickly. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 siege tanks though, so while Vanya might be able to pick off some of the front line, there is no way he can actually get into the core of Clem's base. If he does, he gets too close to the tanks and he's gonna get picked off. Worst case scenario, I think Clem has to lift these buildings and pull the SCVs, but you can see he's very adamant on trying to hold this position. He doesn't want to give up any ground. The Marine count here is just fantastic too. He should be able to hold this. The big thing Clem's doing though is hit and running, and I like this a lot. Now that he's chewed through most of the roaches, the Ravagers are open. Ravagers fairly squishy when compared to roaches. The factory goes down. Factory Shan. No! But he does end up killing all of Vanya's army for this, so kind of worth it. Ghost Ball's almost at that medevac. The stim here is a little aggressive, and frankly, chasing out this deep, I was a little worried, but he does reserve himself and pulls back. Vanya's going to change some things up himself, though. He takes another base, which is very important to his economy, but more importantly, he's got Burrow and Tunneling Claws. We haven't really seen much of this since they nerfed this some time ago. For those who don't know, Tunneling Claws no longer provides any additional health regen, so roaches only have the default. If you guys remember before, a burrowed roach was pretty much unkillable by a small amount of units. But regardless, this hasn't been a tactic used in some time. But when you consider this game has no missile turrets anywhere to be found, no science or no ravens, excuse me, I almost said science vessel. Why would I say science vessel? There's never been a science vessel. Anyways, there's no ravens to play. I think the surprise element of the burrow could be really effective, but in the long term, I don't know it's going to be that big of a deal. What I don't like though, I don't like Roach Ravager late game play without support staff. TLO is someone who also likes to do this, and I love watching TLO play, but he usually does it with things like Infestors supporting. You got a fungal growth in there, right? Maybe it's a Viper for an Abduct. Whatever the case is, Roaches and Ravagers on their own are not great. It's when they're complemented by other units that become really good. And I can see the Stream Raider battle is ready to go, guys, but I'll have to play that one off stream since I don't know when this game's going to end. So I'm just going to play that in the background here for y'all. Now the surprise attack, if you're looking for it, you can see this clear as day, right? This is an obvious animation, but he's not looking for it. Why would you? Nobody does Tunneling Claws anymore. This isn't in the meta. So as a bit of a surprise attack, yeah, he's now realized what's going on. He scans for the burrowed roaches. He's going to bleed out some SCVs. No doubt about this. He's going to, oh my God, watch Vanya walk into him in the middle of the map. Vanya, what are you doing? That A move is going to cost him almost every single Ravager. Clem, not fearful of this, pounces on this and takes out the Ravagers through precision strikes. While this goes on, a drop down here was cleaned up. This base has still not been fully defended yet. 18 SCVs have died, but we're kind of at that point in the game where losing SCVs is almost acceptable. You do see him rebuilding them, but maybe don't. Use mules and make more army supply, right? That's what we see Terran players do all the time. Next up, force to back away again. Resources lost, favoring Clem by about 5,000 right now. So, I mean, he got caught off guard by this attack. He did, straight up. But he's actually handled this very well, I must say. There's still a couple of roaches to worry about. Missile turrets have come down in pathways, not in mineral lines, because he's not afraid of air units. He just needs the detection for the roaches. Also, surprise, surprise, we absolutely murdered that free chest level, guys. All right, new battles queued up in the background. This drop is actually getting away with a couple of kills. Queen went down pretty quick, but the Roaches and Ravagers are on the other side of the field. There's a Planetary Fortress, but a Planetary Fortress is not as good in this situation as it is against Zerglings. These two Roaches on Burrow, and once again, Vanya gets back to killing Clem's SCVs. Clem's lost a lot of workers over the course of this game, but oh, that choke point and these siege tanks do not mix. The Roaches come into the fight. They think they're taking out most of the siege tanks, but the one on the high ground is just blasting away. Ravagers, of course, still pretty scary, but it's the Roaches that need to be dealt with first. Once those Roaches fall, the Ravagers will fall shortly after. Easier said than done. Clem continues to bleed out another 10 SCVs while this goes on. I do want to note, though, that even with all these workers lost, all this really did was even up the game for Vanya, economically speaking. God, it's so infuriating cleaning these up. You need so many scans. About time the missile turret comes down. Ooh, Marauders doing what they can. Shots fired, shots fired. Nice. Concussive shells pretty much secures kills on this. More concussive shells means more deaths. Roaches have finally been taken care of. This infestation has taken the better part of the last 5 minutes to deal with, but he's finally dealt with it. There's not really a lot of anti-air. We're on hive tech, and Vanya doesn't really have a way to shoot things down. So these medevacs continue to save units over and over and over again. And for anyone out there who's asking, like, why doesn't Clem just build a Raven for all this trouble? I think the same thing a lot of the time with Terran. But for the most part, that starport needs to be on a reactor. You don't have a free tech lab to transfer this to. For example, you need to be still building tanks and Marauders while this goes on. So you don't really have the option to build a Raven. But man, I agree 100%. One Raven would be worth its weight in gold on this map. Is this a GSL watch party? No, this is a tournament we're covering. This is our own tournament, a fundraiser tournament we've been running for the last couple weeks. Oh, a little scary here. Pulls back. That chokes, splitting the army. Clem's on 121 army supply, and he's on better upgrades. And frankly, the type of units Vanya have, they're early game basic ass units. Like, this is what you want your late game to be composed of. I think this, though, with fungal growths, is infinitely better. But right now, it is just Roach Ravager, and this brute force way of playing the game may work on other Terrans. So far, at least, it hasn't worked on Clem. And Clem now pushes into this. Up to this point, it's been with like mildly bio units. Now he's got 16 siege tanks. 16 siege tanks is insane. I too love watching some good ass StarCraft Montel Williams, and we've definitely got some of that here. Clem looking for the victory with this push. Vanya's gonna come back, and I guess with some burrow, he might be able to get under the siege tanks. And if he burrows and unburrows, he could kill a lot of tanks. But how's he gonna deal with the bio? Oh god, that volley was huge. Meanwhile, other side of the map, counterattack. Oh, we have detection, but we don't have units set up to fight this. Clem not looking at home, focused on the front lines, sets up those siege tanks for one big mega blast. Eats a lot of corrosive biles, unfortunately. And back at home, he's not holding, but the reason he's not is he was supply capped. He couldn't build anything. With those units dying, he does have some reinforcements on the way, at least. Some. It's terrifying with the siege tanks because, of course, any of them sieged up, they run the risk of being picked off by the corrosive biles. Oh, what's going on here? But I mean, this is still action down here. Hatchery dies, tanks are zoned out, corrosive biles are trading. But the production is Clem's weak point, and he's trying to hold on to this because he needs his production to remain mostly unscathed. The tank sets up for a good blast, but the Roaches burrow. Stick player response out of Vanya. Gets into the dead zone, tank shut down. But no matter what happens here, it's paling in comparison to what's happening over here. Vanya's losing base after base and taps out. GG. Clem, 2 points to 0. It's game number 3 and welcome back. We find ourselves in another match point situation. Unfortunately for this guy spawning in the bottom right. In fact, let me swap the scoreboard around a little bit. There we go. Spawning here at the bottom right, we have the blue Zerg player. He is on his last life. It's Vanya. And his opponent to the bottom left. Oh, he's looking to finish him off with swift, cheesy justice. Ladies and gentlemen, the red French Terran, Clem. Now, a proxy barracks is one thing. The bigger question is whether this is 2 barracks, 3 barracks, or 9 barracks.
Whoa, what are you doing, Step Bro? Shouldn't you be casting the game?
Thank you, Shade, for the Twitch Prime. 1 year. Welcome back, man. So, in all seriousness, though. Oh, I see what you guys mean. That is loud. I'm sorry, that is really, I don't know why that's louder than the sub alert. It's the same alert. I don't understand. Okay, anyways, look, I'll talk about the donation in a second. Thank you, Silhouette, for the $5. But the reason the scout is important from this overlord is to see the barracks first and foremost, and it should. But secondly, to know whether it's 2 barracks or 3. A 3 racks almost requires a spine crawler for defense, whereas 2 you can do with some micro. And the offhanded joke about 9 racks Reaper, by the way, if you did not see a previous group play, it's on YouTube. Will is our YouTube guy. Maybe he can link it in chat. Clem did a 9 racks Reaper build versus Solar. And that's all I'm going to say. But it's only 2 barracks. And he's... Oh, wait. He didn't see it. Oh, my God. The Overlord was rallied to go down this way. He changed his rally path. He didn't see it. And he doesn't see the bunker. Oh, no. Oh, Clem. And the worst part is his other Overlord is going to be late to detect that there's no barracks at home. Sometimes you get over here, you see the lack of barracks, you put 2 and 2 together, you know what's going on. But no, the hatchery's finished up and the bunker's almost done. And this is one of the worst feelings because for Clem, the biggest threat is the drones being pulled and stopping the bunkers from being filled. It's cutting off the marine reinforcement point, all of that. No, those are no longer options for Vanya. He starts a spine crawler up in fear that this is a 3 racks. It's not. So this ends up being a weird reaction. But if he moves that down to the low ground, he may be able to break some bunkers with it. People are already saying GG 3-0. You can defend this. I'm much more of a fan of people who bust this with Ravagers and Roaches. But the reason this isn't... Okay, hear me out. This is why this is not a big deal on this map. It's still a big deal. Don't get me wrong. Vanya could lose the game here and now. But if you lose your natural, you can actually backwards expand on this map. If you lose control of the natural, you don't have to all in to counter this. But he's going for it. He pulls the drones. Queen's getting killed. Spinecrawler rooting right in the front line. Lings chasing back these Marines. But too many drones are already dying. This many drones do not need to be on the front line. 6 doesn't seem like a lot, but 6 in the early game is devastating. And this hatchery does live. Awesome. Oh no, he repositioned the spine crawler. No, this thing takes like 7 years to reburrow. You can have a kid. You can go on Tinder, find a brand new relationship, marry that woman, have a child, and give it birth and train it how to play StarCraft 2 before this fucking spine crawler reburrows into the ground. Hatchery ends up dying. Base is forfeit. Queen's gonna die. Spine crawler's out of position. This is probably it for Vanya, guys. He's gonna clean up the rest of these Marines, but he's left with 1 base and nothing to work with. Maybe a Baneling bust? Okay, this is his one hope. His one shot is for these Banelings to bust Clem so hard because Clem will not have many units at home. He knows, Vanya, knows that the barracks are floating back. He knows there's not gonna be a bunch of Marines. Oh, there's gonna be a Widow Mine though. Don't Widow Mine if I do. Okay, takes out 2 of the Lings. Small problem, a small nuisance where these buildings will not get to finish out properly, or shouldn't. He really wants that Widow Mine though, because that Widow Mine threatens the potential Baneling follow-up. But I think the Banshee should be solid for this too, right? Barracks are gonna land. It's a janky wall, but it gets the job done. However, with Hellions still not out, the natural is not safe. Vanya's gonna open this up. No way. Is Vanya gonna find a way to make this work? I'm like, really? No, I'm like, no, right? Like, this has got to be a Clem game. The Banshee seals it for me, right? But for a moment there, I'm like, Clem's lost control of this game. The wall. This is not a wall. There's an open invite for the banlings. But my concern is there's not enough actual units to fight behind the banlings. Like, there's not going to be nearly enough Zerglings to take on the Hellions. Oh, especially with the Banshee finding them here too. Picking off 1 or 2 Zerglings is devastating. This is one base super all in out of Vanya. I don't even think it's worth the money to spend on the Spore Crawler because it's do or die. You're not looking to defend a Banshee and play Macro behind this. He has to utterly kill Clem here. Oh my god, the Banelings were lined up so poorly for that first shot. Vanya, no. GG. Oh, that was rough. But GG, Clem takes the series 3-0. And let me show you guys the process I have, by the way. A little behind the scenes, if you will. So this was a 3-0 series, but I didn't know that going into it. Because what I've had all the players do is they have to send me game 4 and game 5, or at least make it look like there's a game 4 and game 5. That way, when I cast these, I don't know ahead of time. Like if somebody sends me only 3 replays, then I know it's a 3-0, and I can't cast as authentically, and more importantly, I can't enjoy the series with you guys as well. But by sending me all 5 games, it makes it a lot easier to keep this more close to being live, even though it's not live for me. Because at the end of the day, guys, I don't treat this as like a job. I love watching StarCraft. I love watching really good StarCraft. This is still my favorite game. So I want to be able to enjoy these alongside you guys. And I think, by the way, that's why some people don't like what I do on the channel. Because I'm not here to provide professional commentary a la Rotterdam style. I just want to enjoy the fucking games of StarCraft with y'all. You know what I mean? I just got a better mic than you guys. That's the only difference.